That would be Mac and Mac here on Birds 365, Free Agent Wednesday. Oh, yeah, free agency starts today. I don't know what the hell we've been doing these last 48 hours, but free agency officially starts today. Oh, this tampering time. The Eagles have been quite active. They've lost some, they've added some, they've changed directions on some, and we're here to break it down for you for the next 2 hours. Johnny Mac, they've kept you busy on top of all of the moves that the Eagles have made, both adding, subtracting, retaining. Yesterday was a big one for the Eagles because I'll be honest, I came out of this surprised that they were able to retain James Bradberry. I thought that his number was going to get high enough that the Eagles would walk away. It came out pretty high, but according to James Bradberry, wasn't the highest number he had, that he left money on the table, that he preferred to stay here in Philadelphia, likes his coaches, likes the team, likes the town, and that's why he signed a 3-year contract extension with the Eagles. I'm buying that he left money on the table. How about you?
That's a good question. I haven't thought about that. I think he left some money on the table, most likely. A little bit of a surprise because, one of the reasons why we all were in your category, basically, Jody, we all kind of assumed that James was going to be moving on is because he was pretty consistent with us, throughout the season. He's a very honest player, very thoughtful player. I always talk about very smart player, savvy player, but he's also very honest. And he said, look, I love it here and, but I got to do what's best for me financially. And he was pretty consistent throughout the season with that. So we all assumed, all right, he's going to be 30 years old. This is his last chance to make big money. He's going to go for the biggest contract. And he didn't at the end of the day. So that's good news for the Eagles. And yeah, you never know, obviously. But I do think, judging by the size of the contract, he probably got some bigger offers. And it's interesting you say like the coaching staff because the coaching staff ain't back. At least from
It's
his
pretty damn different.
Yeah. Now, I think he knows the organization. He knows they're going to play the same philosophy, as I'm trying to call it. Obviously, there'll be some differences with the new coordinator, new secondary coach. But that framework was a little interesting because not only Jonathan Gannon, but also Denard Wilson is not back, who's the guy he worked with on a daily basis. So a lot of change from that perspective, but only good news for the Eagles. I mean, this was a tremendous player. All due respect to our buddy Bob Groats. He had a phenomenal year. He's been a good player for a lot of years. I go back. Remember the Jalen Rager game in New York and all the hoopla? I remember you and I talking about that. And I remember a play where Bradberry undercut a play and fans were losing their minds because there was a screenshot and somebody was open for a millisecond. And I remember distinctly saying to you, Jody, these guys don't realize how savvy he's trying to bait the quarterback. They don't realize how savvy. Now they realize and he's been a good player for years. He's never played as well as he did last year. But if you would have graded all the free agents, he would have been near the bottom for the guys to come back from the perspective of where we thought things were going. So the fact that they were able to get him back is only positive.
Agreed. And he had a phenomenal year. The fact that he is 30 years old scares some people because that's getting into the territory where you go, really, 3-year contract? Well, it's a 2-year deal that may stretch to 3 with the way the guaranteed money is laid out. If the Eagles want and or need to, they can get out of it after 2 years. But because he's the type of player, you just did a very good job describing what type of player is. He's a cerebral player. There are some players that are just so athletically gifted that they can make plays that others can't because they've got a skill set that others don't. That's not James Bradberry. He's not this unbelievable, twitchy, fast guy with great size or length or whatever. No, he's good in all those categories, but he's smart as all get out. And he just understands how to play the position. And when you start to see drop off with age, you usually see it with athletes first. Guys who are leaning on their athletic skills, because those start to erode a little bit. And now the guy's getting beat. Now the guy's not coming up with those plays. He's not getting those tip balls anymore. Because of the way he plays the game, I think he'll age well. So the fact that they went 3 years on him at age 30 doesn't concern me. I don't think there's going to be this drop off a cliff, game dropping type drop off with the Eagles during the run of this contract. I don't want to say you could knock me over with a feather, but I was pretty damn surprised when I found that out yesterday. I thought, hey, yeah, this is one of the two guys who I thought were going to be very difficult, because I thought the Eagles would be very motivated to keep CJ, and we'll talk about him in a second. I thought the two guys that were just going to price themselves out of the Eagle range were going to be Hargrave and Bradberry. Hargrave didn't have to wait long, 45 minutes, to find out that he priced himself out of the Eagles range. Bradberry didn't. And to get him done and get him back here and keep him paired with Slay. And yeah, I know he's paired with Slay right now. And when the season starts, I wouldn't be surprised if he's paired with Slay. The Eagles have shown that, yeah, they liked being the best defense against the pass in the National Football League last year, and they're going to try and continue that by keeping the best cornerback tandem in the National Football League.
Yeah, we'll see with Slay. I mean, today's a big deal. One of the other reasons we all thought Bradberry wouldn't be back is because it's difficult to pay two corners at the level the Eagles are set to pay their two corners. Not impossible, obviously. But, they've given Slay permission, Drew Rosenhaus permission to shop Slay around the league, basically so they get a judge of his value and where he is for a potential extension. And at his even older player at 32. So this is a big day. Now, a lot of people want answers. Is something going to happen with Slay today? Well, maybe. I mean, it's not a yes or no question. I mean, the Eagles don't really gain that much from a cap perspective by trading him now. They gain more after June 1st, but the problem with that is a lot of teams want a budget right now. They want to make decisions right now. So, you got to deal with, it's not just about what you want. It's about what the team acquiring the player would want. So it's a little bit more complicated than a yes, no question, but it would be, that's as Jerry Seinfeld would say, a big matzo ball playing two corners, that kind of money. And again, but Slay, Bradberry, Avonte Maddox when he's healthy. I mean, that's the best cornerback trio in football. A lot of moving parts. I mean, safety's a moving part of it. The more this goes on, the more you think CJ's coming back. I mean, to me, there's a clear indication the market's not where he thought it was going to be by this point. I'm shocked that he's still on the market, and that indicates a very good chance that he'll be back. And that changes things, because that's you can lose one, you lose Marcus Epps, but if you lose two, then you got to start thinking about, well, do you move Avonte Maddox back to safety because it's easier to find at least a competent slot than two safeties? You still have Josiah Scott and all that kind of stuff. So there's still a lot of moving parts, and but if you get back two good players, here's the thing about free agency that bothers me, Jody, my tangent for the day. And we'll talk about Rashad Penny as well. This factors in with Rashad Penny. Everybody's so worried about value. At the end of the day, it's about players. Our buddy Colin Thompson, always says, I love that phrase. It's about the Jimmies and Joes, man. You got to get good players at the end of the day. It's fine about valuation, but you can't be so obsessed with valuation that you forget, we need some good players as well. And generally, you got to pay some good players.
So did the Eagles make a mistake by letting a guy like TJ Edwards walk? Because I
I
think it's
think
all
so.
about
You know how I feel
valuation
about
with
TJ.
him because he's a good player, and they let a good player just walk out the door.
I think so because it was a deal. But I'm aboard. I think TJ's a really good player. I think people are obsessed. Again, another thing I can't stand, obsessed with his pedigree. Oh, he's undrafted. He's undrafted. He's undrafted. At some point, you got to put that in the back. You can't say in year 21, Tom Brady was the 6th-round pick. One night, well, everybody did say it, but at some point, you got to turn the corner and say, all right, we screwed that one up. We screwed that one up. This kid can play. And, the Eagles aren't the only one because he didn't get nearly the deal that he should have gotten. And what's the reason? Because he was undrafted and people don't believe what they're seeing. Enough people don't believe what they're seeing. No, he got a decent deal. But yes, and to a circle back, I got a tweet about Howie, and I feel like I need me, Jody. I mean, I think Howie Roseman is a great general manager, and I've gotten a lot of criticism for that. People trying to say I'm currying favor with Howie Roseman, which ain't working, by the way. So, but I will say this: now it's turned. Now Howie can do no wrong. And I got this tweet.
Yes.
I got this tweet about Rashad. Oh, what a brilliant deal. Well, Rashad ain't getting big money because he's missed 38 games in 4 years. He's missed 40 games since 2018. He got the deal. He got the deal because he's never on the field. And I got this tweet from a pretty high-profile guy, so I don't want to throw him under the bus, but I'll just tell you about the tweet. The Cowboys are paying whatever $30 million for their running back room, and the Eagles are paying $3.5 million. Yeah, but the Cowboys have Tony Pollard, who's a damn good player. Now, I agree for the most part, you should devalue running backs. For the most part, you should devalue linebackers. But at the end of the day, the Cowboys know they got a really good running back. And you can talk about Ezekiel Elliott as well. I mean, obviously, he's a descending player. At the end of the day, the Bears, they have 2 really good linebackers. They know that. They may have overspent. I'll agree with that part of it. But there's this polarization of, they spent too much, so that's stupid. Well, maybe it is stupid, but they got good players. Right. You have uncertainty at linebacker. You have nothing at linebacker. And you got a guy who's never on the field at running back, and you're telling me that's a genius move? I can't go genius move yet. We'll see. Is all I can go.
One thing that I think that the Eagle fans who are moving right on from the fact that they let their 2 starting linebackers walk out the door. Oh, we'll get somebody else. These 2 guys were average linebackers. That's all they were, TJ and Kaiser White. Do I need to run names like Eric Wilson by you?
Yeah, Eric Wilson, LJ. I forgot about Eric Wilson. LJ Ford, Corey Nelson. Yeah, Paul Warlow. Eric Wilson.
If the guys who just left were average linebackers, and I'm seeing that right here on our stream, and I've gotten those same tweets that you have. We've seen well below average linebacker hold down the position here in Philadelphia. So, however you want to move the scale, Edwards and Kaiser White were just average players. We've seen well below average. Yeah. And the Eagles reached out and acquired all these guys, so they got to go get somebody. We both like Nakobe Dean. We think he's going to step in and be very good next year, maybe even an upgrade and or better from the linebackers they had. But they still need another one. And I'm not 100% sure the Eagles can go, we can get this guy. We can get him for value, and he's going to come in and be at least average. Okay, I'll wait and see if they can actually accomplish that, John.
Same here. Well, that's why I said it. And I know, day one, I told you Eric Wilson can't play. I never got my flowers for that one with all the people criticizing me, and they had to go through that. The assumption that they're just going to go get somebody for, Kaiser White, is an average linebacker. He's an average linebacker, but he's an average linebacker, you know. And as you pointed out, that's a hell of a lot better than the Eric Wilsons of the world and the Paul Warlows of the world, who got injured. You know, that was part of it. The Corey Nelsons of the world. L.J. Ford, I don't know. He went down to Baltimore and was a half decent player, but for the Eagles, he did nothing. Yeah, I mean, the assumption that, we're just going to be cheap and replace Kaiser White, and we're going to be cheap and replace TJ Edwards. And I have a lot of confidence in Nakobe Dean, but I do think there is the opposite of TJ Edwards going on with Nakobe Dean. There's an assumption because of his college success that he's going to go and be the Georgia guy. And you just saw with Jordan Davis. I'll say this. There's going to be startup costs to go back to Jim Schwartz. Maybe 2 years down the road, Nakobe turns into a significantly better player than TJ Edwards. Maybe. There's the possibility. He certainly has a ceiling, a high ceiling as a player. But I feel like there's people assuming it. And that's a big assumption because TJ wasn't an average linebacker. TJ was an above average linebacker. And people who've been watching Eagles football over the past 10 years or so, that's pretty good for this team. They haven't had a lot of good linebacker play. You can keep going back to Seth.
That's how far you have to go back. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Jeremiah Trotter or somebody. They haven't had a lot of good linebacker play. You know, Nigel Bradham, Jordan Hicks were solid players. TJ was better than them. Maybe Jordan was better at his height, but he was injured a lot. There's an assumption there that people are skipping steps, as I like to say.
All right, one more quick question for the two big moves yesterday, and we got the Rashad Penny as you teased when we get our first guest up here, Les Bowen. The effect that yesterday's moves, let's take both of the last 2 days' moves, has on the draft. Now, Howie Roseman is going to say we're going to take the best available player, which chances are they will, but you're always hoping to get a win-win situation where the best available player is a player at a position of need. You and I were both kind of leaning toward at number 10 cornerback. If Bradberry goes out the door, then they get the other starter, someone of that high quality. You can plug and play, put them right in. As of now, that's not necessary. What would be the number one priority? What's the win-win position?
I'll tell you what.
Draft for the Eagles
now,
now?
It's way early, and I haven't even talked to the people I used to talk. I usually talk to, and they gave me some good information last year with Cam Jurgens. So I'll get to all that. But right now, I got to tell you, I'm starting to buy into that Pitt kid, Kalijah Kancey. I mean, he's shooting up everybody's board. The Eagles don't care about the running game anyway. They don't care.
They better care because they don't have TJ Edwards back there making 150
Well, it doesn't matter,
tackles.
right? They're going to get anybody to replace TJ Edwards, right? So I'm just saying it's very early in the process. But they need a defensive tackle. They value defensive tackles. It's one of the positions, obviously, they lost Javon Hargrave. We'll see if they can get Fletcher back, which I think is very important now. And I know people don't want to hear that. But if they lose Fletcher as well, I mean, they really need a defensive tackle. I'm just throwing it out. It's very early in the process, but he's shooting up boards.
They better talk to the two veteran guys that they brought in mid-season, who we both agree might look to go down that road again. Yeah, I'll see you in about October, late October, November. Maybe they need one of those two guys to actually start the season on a defensive line for the Eagles. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald, Mac Birds 365. Les Bowen is going to kick things off first today. We got two good Philly guests for you. That would be Les Bowen first. John Clark, NBC Sports Philly a little bit later. So do yourself a favor. Stay right here with us.